Saratoga Springs, Tuesday, February 18th, 2020 at 6 p.m. It's 6:04. And present tonight, I have Councilman Karn, Councilman Porter, and Councilman Wilden. So we do have a quorum. I've asked Councilman Wilden to lead us in our invocation and Councilman Karn to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance.
Our Father in heaven, we're grateful we're able to be gathered here this evening as leaders of the community. And we're grateful to be presented with items and have discussions that we can make decisions to help improve our community and the life of all those who live here. And we ask thee to bless us with thy spirit that we'll be able to make good decisions and be guided to do and those things that thou would have us to do. And these things we say in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You should recognize the message of very important beer.
Public input. Time has been set aside for the public to express ideas, concerns, and comments for subject matter not listed on the agenda. If you're here for the public hearing for the 2020 budget amendments, Resolution R20-10, please hold your comments for the public hearing. Please be respectful in your comments. Please state your name and address for the record. Please avoid repetitive comments, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Is anybody here for public input at this time? Okay, seeing none, I will close the public input. Reports from the council. Councilman Porter.
I attended with Councilman Wilden and with Mark Christensen, the Legislative Policy Committee up the hill a week ago Monday. Just something to be aware of. House Bill 273 is looking to revamp some of the revamp the property ombudsman office and how it would work. It would be severely detrimental to the cities. So that's something that if you have a chance, I have some information about it I can get to you guys. I'll send that out. And then you may want to contact our legislators and let them know that it would not be a wise decision.
Anything from administration?
Has a quick question to clear off of you, and then Mayor, I gave you a hand note earlier. The North Lakeshore group is looking to see if we have some names for someone that can serve as a representative of Saratoga Springs on the North Lakeshore study, which is looking at potential transit and road alignments and things like that. They want someone who will be, a solid representative of the city, but is also kind of flexible in understanding the bigger issues as opposed to just.
Are they looking for like an elected official or planning commissioner?
It could just be a member of the community. It could be an elected official. It could be a planning commission member. It could just be a resident who has, just a good, strong understanding of kind of our community and transportation issues. And again, they're just looking for some representation.
Councilman Wilden's asking if former Councilwoman Barch, who was on the Lakeshore Committee, might be interested if we could reach out to her.
I will reach out to her on that tomorrow. Do you have anyone else in case she decides not to participate?
Any volunteers from the council? You're the last one on the line.
So this group will be probably one meeting a month or something like that, and it's really just kind of participating and making sure that we've got the check-in points covered.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, Councilman Karn.
So Councilmember Karn, and then we've got also Councilmember Porter and Owen Jackson who will be helping us with our UTA discussion. I don't know if you want to go into any more on that.
Yes, UTA has reached out to us. They, Commissioner Millington met with us that meeting, went back, talked to his staff about how come they never brought the corridor preservation we've been doing forward. He was able to obtain $60,000 for a study for Eagle Mountain and Saratoga Springs. And I've asked Councilman Porter and Owen to be part of the commission that will look at the transit needs in Saratoga Springs and Eagle Mountain for the future.
And then one last item from administration. David Johnson had just a quick item.
Okay?
Yeah, just, so I'm trying to schedule doing new council member photos, the photos for the website and everything. The question is, do you guys want to do a group photo? Because if you do, I'll have to schedule something where you all come together. If you don't want a group photo, then I can just have you go on your own leisure to the studio to have your photos taken, so.
Can we just use mine from last time?
They could, but we like to have them kind of coincide.
He likes
Yeah.
the fact he's 4 years younger.
Is that what it is? Yeah. It's just Glenn Ricks in Lehigh.
I don't need a group photo.
Yeah.
We can just go do individuals. Okay,
Perfect. Thank you.
perfect.
The two persons could give each other piggyback rides for the pictures.
Then what I'll do is I'll just pass on his contact info so that you guys can individually schedule with him to go have your photos taken, so.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, department reports. We have building.
Mayor, Council, pleased to be with you tonight. Thanks for the opportunity to share our status of our department again. As the trends continue to show, things are continuing to stay busy and are continuing to accelerate in the same patterns that they have for the last, 10 years or so. As far as number of permits, we again had a great last 3 quarters of last year, and so far this year in 2020, in January we issued 103 permits in January, so it's keeping right on track with where we were for those last 3 quarters of last year, which was the busiest January that we've had historically in the city. With that, 78 of those 103 were residential units, which also was the busiest January as far as residential units also. So we're continuing on with the trend, maybe if not consistent with, maybe even a little bit faster than where we were last year with that. As far as inspections, the inspections we're continuing to stay busy, continuing to keep up with the level of work. I think the guys in January did 1,674, I believe, was the number of inspections they did in January, which is pretty consistent with where we'd been throughout the previous year. Staffing levels and the quality of the people that we have, working with the contractors that we have, we're doing a great job keeping up. Quality is consistent with where it's always been and where we hope it will always be able to stay. Commercial projects, consistent with where the same ones we had last month when we visited. I think with the addition of the McDonald's addition, where they're going to put the play center in over there, and the permit for the Steak Center there on the Templar properties also ready to be issued. It's just a matter of timing for the contractors to come in and get that so they can get started on that project, and that one didn't make it onto the list there. Any questions that I can answer for any of you?
Any questions? Councilman Carn?
Yeah, I couldn't tell from the graphs, but is there a seasonality you see in your permits?
Really, there's not. It used to be a little bit confusing. Prior to you being on the council, I used to have track by month, to show up by month, and it would get just a little bit overpowering and hard to see anything. So that's kind of why I changed over and started doing the quarterly data here, so that we could see if there was differences in throughout the seasons, and it's pretty consistent, and has been. The industry is such to where they're able to maintain construction levels, to get their excavations in. And get the footings and foundations in, even in the wintertime. It doesn't slow down the way it used to. The technology is such, and the quality of the contractors are such that they can protect those holes, protect the concrete to make sure that we don't freeze anything up. And so that's allowed them to continue to build as aggressively through all of the months of the year.
Okay, and then, I'm not sure if you can address this question or not, but probably our two biggest commercial projects right now, the Costco and the LDS Temple, are they both progressing along? Seems like Costco's kind of stalled out a little bit over in the field.
They're both moving quite aggressively. Costco's getting a lot of their underground work in and getting all the preparation. They anticipate footing and foundation for the Costco to go in somewhere around mid-April, which would put them a mid-July open on that store. The temple, they've just about got, I'd say probably got 75, 80% of the footings in place. And they're starting to come up with walls. We've got the eastern section of the building. They've got some foundation walls that are in place and starting to move around, work their way around the building on that. I'd imagine a month from now, you may start to see things showing up above grade as that's moving along. So yeah, they're all both making real good progress. When I met with the contractors for the temple here a month ago, we were talking timeline, and they anticipated 24 months.
24 months from when they broke ground?
From when we were talking a month ago.
Okay,
So
right.
2 years from now.
yep. Great.
All
Thanks.
right. Anything else?
Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Encourage Costco to keep it up. I need 120 hot dogs for Labor Day, so.
I'll let them know. I'll let them know.
Chief Burton?
The kids.
Mayor and council always wait for the slide to come up. Make sure that I'm not deferring to my fire department counterpart, but thank you. I'll talk to you about this picture here in just a minute. Let's see, I guess I've got the controls. You saw this chart at the retreat a little more than a month ago. Nothing's changed. It's the same chart, actually, and the only comment I really have is that our projections for this year seem to be on track so far, unless you have any questions on that. So I'll focus mainly on some of our activities, mostly training. We've had some amazing training events the last couple of months. And you can read it there. I'll just highlight that in January, as we do every January, we participated in the use of force simulator. This is a photograph of the simulator. It's an amazing system that we're able to test officers' reactions, not just with firearms, but with the other tools like tasers and other tools that they carry. And we're able to evaluate each officer individually and also as a pair, two officers together. So it's a very good evaluation, but it's also very good training. Then as far as SWAT team training goes, you saw a picture of the SWAT team in front of a helicopter, and the end of November, we actually, let me back up, a couple of years ago, the SWAT team participated in a program with the Army called Downed Aircraft Rescue Training. And of course, the Army National Guard flies a lot of helicopters in the vicinity of both Bluffdale and Saratoga. And we're the first responders. We may be on scene ahead of the fire department even. And so they wanted us to come through this training on how to rescue pilots out of aircraft, turn our aircraft off, that kind of thing. We went through that training. To follow that up, they took us on a flight. So they had two Black Hawk helicopters that took us from Camp Williams. We flew over Saratoga Springs, and then up over, they flew us along the ranges so we could see an aerial of Camp Williams, because that's the area that we would most likely respond to for that aircraft, downed aircraft kind of thing. And then up over the top and over Bluffdale. So we got to see both cities from the air. It was a very interesting, very informative bit of training. And incorporated on top of that was an operation at Camp Williams. When we returned from the LZ, we launched a little simulated SWAT operation from the helicopters, which we would actually never do in real life, but we get off some kind of a vehicle. And yeah. We also had some amazing classes that night, so the whole day wasn't just a helicopter flight. You can see some of the classes that we listed. And then in February, we actually did a fair number of classes, most of which are refresher, and we need to refresh these topics from time to time. But one of the things we did is we have a new junior high school, elementary school. We have a new junior high school under construction in Bluffdale, but we have a brand-new elementary school there that we've never trained in. So the SWAT team conducted training in that school, and we used force-on-force tactics with simunitions. And so this time, the officers were actually getting hit with rounds, and it creates a realism that is very, very helpful. We're also planning on doing that same thing in our new middle school here, kind of as soon as they get the construction finished. And we try to train in every school from time to time. I don't know if you have any questions on this slide.
Councilman Wilden?
I did have one on the training that you talked about in the beginning, almost like the simulator, the virtual reality. I don't know if it's the same one that Springville uses. Is it the?
It's very possible. There's three that we have access to. The one that we use is the one that is owned by the Unified Police Department. And the reason we use that one is we have the greatest access to that as far as selecting dates. There is one here in Utah County that we're allowed to use, but the dates they give us are so awful. They don't correspond to our training. And then there's another one in Salt Lake County.
Well, the reason I asked, a former council member of Springville went to one of those facilities, and they had their council. I'm not asking for me. That's not why I'm going here. But they had them go through it, and he said it was a pretty phenomenal experience. It gave him a much better appreciation of the stress that our officers need to go through. And not that I want to do it, I just wondering if that would be.
He's asking for a friend.
No, I don't. He told me about it, and I just was getting panicky even thinking about it. The mayor would love something about that, but other people in the staff that don't regularly deal with that type of thing.
We could certainly arrange something for the
Not for
council and or the staff, and I believe that it does have a great deal of value. I've been a law enforcement officer for a long time, as you know. And even when I step into the machine, I feel that stress that you don't feel when you're just doing regular training.
Well, he said they did a simulation around like active school shooters and all sorts of things.
Oh, they have every scenario you can think of. They have, I don't know, 100 different scenarios with all kinds of things. And so you can go in there. We use the same one for every officer, so we have 3 scenarios we run. Every officer goes through 3 scenarios. But it's an amazing system, so.
Anyway, maybe the mayor or other people. He expressed to me, former council member there, that it really opened his eyes to the stress that they're put under. And I think it'd be a good educational thing for some just to get that experience.
We've tried to get the media to go on occasion too, because we like them to have a better understanding of those stresses.
I remember several summers ago when we were across the nation, we were having a lot of issues. You know, I saw they would have media and elected officials do it, and there was a lot more understanding, a little bit fairer reporting out of those that
Split-second decisions
are difficult.
that we ask our officers to make, and no one understands what the feelings are like, making those decisions. And this is a system that can bring some of that understanding.
Councilman Carn?
Yeah, if Wilden won't say it, I will. I'm happy to participate in any of those types of activities.
I would go. I just don't want to act like
And
make it sound like
it's-
I'm trying to get in on
Yeah,
I've
they're-
done it once at the facility in Salt Lake, and it was not what I thought it was gonna be. And I was just wearing, shock packs while you're doing it, not getting hit by something, but it was interesting. I did have a question, with our SWAT, are we the closest agency that would report to a situation like an Eagle Mountain, or would they use Utah County? How does that work?
they would use Utah County,
They would,
and so does Lehigh.
okay.
We're the only SWAT in this end of the county.
So that would just serve as our city boundaries, that's it? We wouldn't,
Yeah, we don't, I mean, obviously, if there was an emergency situation like an active shooter in a school or some other thing, we'd go help.
Sure.
But we don't get asked to perform SWAT operations in other locations. Not that we would deny that, but it's not normally the case.
okay,
Where it's a pre-planned operation,
Most all of ours are pre-planned, but we have had a couple of situations where we've had an individual barricade themselves, like a domestic violence situation, and we've had to call part of our, normally we don't call the whole team out, but we've had to call out 6 or 8 of our SWAT team members on occasion and extricate a person that needs to be arrested on a domestic violence or other thing. But most of ours operations are pre-planned, and the tactics that we use are the most advanced tactics. In fact, they're probably the most advanced in Utah County because we've actually changed the tactics that most Utah County agencies use to a more modern tactic that's actually safer for the officers and much less risk to either the officers, much less liability to the city. And as a result of that, as a result of the change of our tactic, we can have a smaller team. We don't need, we have a team that's just big enough to use the tactics that we have, but we don't need to have much anything bigger, so.
the other question I had is with the new junior high in Bluffdale and our new junior high here, and I don't want to open a huge can of worms, but how do we handle resource officers for those schools? Where are those funded from? Do we get any funding from ASD for those?
There's a magic tree that grows a partial
ASD shakes the
reimbursement
tree?
for those wages.
Okay,
Yeah,
so they
Chief,
do
I don't-
some.
It's
Well,
about a
for
third.
the middle schools, we get, I think it's 16,000, I'm sorry. 16,000, and we currently have 2 positions, one each school, that are part-time. It costs us a little under 25,000 or around 25,000, so we're not getting reimbursed for the whole amount. But we do find that having an officer in the school has paid huge dividends. We have, he's able to handle things at the school without having to respond to a patrol officer from a distance away. And they've also been able to work with the school administrations in doing a lot more prevention type work, and focus kinds of work on, certain students that are problematic. So
Do we have one resource officer?
we have one school resource officer for the high school that's full-time.
Okay.
And the district reimburses us, I think, 35,000 on that one. Obviously, that's not the full amount either.
Is
And then
that
we have-
is that his full dedicated, or is he also patrol?
No, he's full-time in the high school.
Okay,
The
And sorry, Mark, he's an extremely busy officer.
Yeah, the
Okay.
exception I was going to add is that over the summer months, he shifts over and does some detective work.
Yes, during the
Oh, okay.
time when school is out,
Out.
he'll work as an investigator. And the one we have in our high school, Jesse Davis, is an outstanding investigator.
so then
Which
our
is-
junior high resource officers also patrol if they're
No,
part-time?
and like I say, they're just part-time. So all of their time is spent at the middle school.
At the schools, okay.
Yeah. I will tell you, in the case of Bluffdale, and of course, the Bluffdale City pays for their officers, but this junior high that's coming online next year, the Jordan School District currently pays $45,000. And myself and 5 other chiefs in the southwest part of Salt Lake County have recently done a little bit of a study about that. And when that was originally set up, they were talking about a reimbursement of half an officer's cost, which at the time was about $90,000. So we're going to be approaching Jordan School District for an increase in that amount. And I think that kind of activity will play over to other districts. And we've talked with Alpine District several times to say, 35,000 isn't really enough. We need more reimbursement for the officer that we have in a high school. So hopefully down the road, that'll improve.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Just real quick, so this is just a picture of some of the guys loaded in the helicopter. The same thing. And then this is a photograph, and we have several photographs of some different areas, but you can see the new public safety building and Patriot Park, part of Patriot Park there, and we got a lot of fun pictures of that area. And then this was landing back at Camp Williams and starting to offload. I don't really have any comments on this slide. It's information that I show you on a fairly regular basis, but I like to include it so that the public and people who look at the minutes or whatever the information that's presented can have some idea about the areas of focus that we have, and also about something that we call truths. And so unless you have any questions, I don't have any other comments on that slide. You've seen this one before. And then this is a 1-minute video. I'll let that play, and then I'll be done. I'll see if you have any questions. That's the city rec league. That's our high school guy. So if you don't have any questions, I'm done.
Yeah. Thank you, Chief.
Thanks.
Okay, Chief Campbell.
Mayor and Council, glad to be here. We in fire, to aid our police department in their training, are happy to fire rounds at any of you. So if you want to simulate, we're happy to help. So that wasn't supposed to be. So that is supposed to be towards the back, but anyway, I put that in there just again as a reminder of our numbers, where we are with our projections. This is kind of one of the updates. We had our final tally was 1,230 students, children that came to visit our stations. And through that process, we had a great experience with our community. Our 3 new full-time firefighters are on. We appreciate, again, that support for that. We've done our implementation of our 1% culture, and that is, as I spoke at our last update, this is a culture that we are trying to instill in our individuals, and it's so far been very effective, and that is just asking everybody to do 1% better on a particular item or focus for that day, not just in their professional lives, but also in their personal lives, to, again, just make a better experience. And I think because of this, you might have seen there was a Facebook post, we had a couple actually, of our personnel having an opportunity to interact and engage our public and assist them. One was a child choking. Another one was where we had a disabled vehicle on Pioneer. and Corey Ryden had the opportunity to pull over and protect the individual that had the disabled vehicle, and they were very appreciative. And so this is just an example of a couple of things that what we're trying to really kind of focus and hone in on. Our aggressive training program for a new ladder truck, we're in the process of putting that together. I've tasked our people to develop the engineers that we need to be able to drive and operate that apparatus by the time it arrives. And so this is something that we'll be actively engaged in and pursuing with state certifications in the month of April. And then with that, we also, in my desire to get Cindy this information in a timely manner, as it seems I'm always late, I didn't get an opportunity or didn't have an opportunity to put some pictures in of our recent ice rescue training that we recently did at out on the lake. It was a night exercise. We started at about 9 p.m. Had an opportunity to run all 3 platoons in conjunction with Lehigh through this, and had the opportunity to be able to be involved in that. And it was a great opportunity for me to be able to see where our personnel are. And then again, defining our culture and updated mission and vision, I've placed those in here for you if you haven't had the opportunity, but this is our new vision, or excuse me, our new mission statement that is driving a lot of what we're doing. That and our new vision statement as well. And again, it's been my focus since I've been here to make us one of, if not the premier agency along the Wasatch Front. And so it's paid off. Our men and women in the organization have done an amazing job in responding to those challenges. With that, any questions? And I do have the additional slides here for you to look at. They're pretty much the same information that we had in the retreat.
Councilman Carn?
Just a couple questions. I'm looking at the pictures of your ice training. Did you participate?
I did. I mean, not as a victim.
Because it looks really cold.
It was. It is chilly, but did have an opportunity to be involved, and the offer was made for me to be a victim.
Did you do that at Pelican? Where did you guys do this?
So we did it right there at Inlet Park.
Okay.
So behind, so I guess south of the dam, from the dam south out into the open water.
Cool. And when do we expect our ladder truck to be delivered?
Ladder truck, we're anticipating a delivery by the end of June is what we're expecting.
We're going to have a big christening for that thing?
It would really be nice if we could get it here in time for Splash.
Splash, yeah, that'd be awesome.
I'll put in a request, but I'm not sure we'll be able to get that done.
I just, the training that you're doing to be able to operate it, are you guys training here in the state on other apparatus, or is the company?
So we're actually working with Lehigh. Lehigh has a reserve apparatus. They actually, from the same manufacturer, just recently took possession of both a new ladder truck and an engine. And so they're in the process of getting that into service. And then once that is in service, we'll have access to what is, I guess, will be their second in line. They'll actually have 3 ladder trucks. So it'll be their old yellow one that we'll use for the month of April.
Cool.
Okay. Councilman Wilden?
Since you didn't have a video, would you be willing to sing us a song about the fire department at least?
No.
Okay. I just thought I'd ask, so. Anyway, that's all I got.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the public hearing for fiscal year 2020 budget amendments, Resolution R 20-10.
Mayor, City Council, the budget amendments that are in the packet have to do with a few positions that Mark has already discussed with you in the last few weeks. And then it's also for the I don't want to say remodel, but I guess the structural improvements that we need to make to this building after the police moved out downstairs. And then also, I think there's some changes up here as well. And then also some adjustments for capital, a few defunding of projects and a few increases here for the projects that are the most important at this time.
Perfect. Okay, this is a public hearing, so I'll open up the public hearing. Is anybody here to comment on the fiscal year 2020 budget amendment, Resolution R20-10? If you are, please state your name and address for the record. Please avoid repetitive comments. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes, and please be respectful in your comments. Is anybody here for the public hearing? You'd be the first ever. Okay. I will close the public hearing for the fiscal year 2020 budget amendment. Council, comments, questions, motion?
I have a quick question and then a motion. The FEMA generator grant project, I'm aware of what that is. Is the increase just that we got more or that we're spending more this year than we had planned? I'm just wondering.
That is a Jeremy question, but that's my assumption, yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to get it to match the amounts.
Right. I just wasn't, that's fine. I move that we approve the fiscal year 2020 budget amendments, Resolution R20-10 dated today.
Second.
First from Councilman Porter.
Second.
Have a second from Councilman Carn. Any further discussion? Wilden?
Aye.
Porter?
Aye.
Carn?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Okay, business items. Business item 1, second quarter fiscal year 2020 budget financial statements.
This is actually my favorite quarter to report because we've received our property taxes by this point. But as you can tell from what's in the packet, all of our general fund revenues are coming in over and above what they did last year and even over and above what we budgeted for as well. The breakdown of the increase in expenditures is in the staff report. The majority of that is, the transfer that we did for over the 25% from the general fund to Fund 35. And so we're exceeding expectations and revenues, and we're staying in line with our expenses. So if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them.
I don't think we have anything to prove.
Oh, we don't?
No, it's just
business item.
informational.
Okay.
I move that we think it's awesome.
Jordan, Wander Development, Village Plan 1, major amendment.
Mayor and Council, this is a request from Oakwood Homes to do a major amendment to Village Plan 1. Just to reorient you and those watching, Jordan Promenade or Wander, as it's being called now, is there in the blue. Encompasses the 367 acres, planned of 3 villages with approval for 1,500 to 1,900 units. One village plan has been approved, and this is an amendment to that Village Plan 1, which is 135 acres. Currently, there are 599 units in VP1. They are requesting through the changes on the next page to go to 664. The community plan allows anywhere between 600 and 730 units in VP1. So what we have here, the 2 amendments you see in the clouds, if you look at the top, the first cloud, that would be removing a portion of the bubble diagram from the plan, which says that would be commercial. There is a commercial user waiting to go on that corner, but they would like to reduce that commercial area and most likely move some of that further north across Pony Express. When that village plan comes in, obviously that's an ideal corner to the north to have commercial. So that moved to the north. They put some townhomes in there. The second bubble diagram, or the red cloud, that was the site for Alpine School District, or LDS Church, that is not needed now at this time. And so they want to remove that and replace that with single-family homes. Now, it coordinates with the bubble diagram in the red you see down at the bottom, which basically says staff can make these changes as a minor amendment and not have to come back to you. In a sense, you're looking at it now and you would be approving it should you vote yes. And then the other change would be to add a convenience store to permitted uses. Now, after we had gone through this a little deeper, we actually don't need to remove refueling station private, nor do we have to add refueling station public, so we can strike those items unless the applicant wants to keep those there. The convenience store definition covers the sale of gas along with food items, house rent, what you typically review as a convenience store. So that use is not in the original village plan, so they would like to add convenience store, obviously, again, because there is a user that is waiting to go on that corner. Then the planning commission recommends approval with the findings and conditions of the staff report, and of course, you have the option to continue or deny.
Okay, any, Councilman Wilden?
Do you want the applicant first? Sorry, I was going out of order.
Do you have anything you'd like to add before Councilman Wilden starts?
Sorry.
Good evening, my name is Sid Alsop. I'm with Oakwood Homes, and there's nothing I need to add right now.
Okay, perfect. Councilman Wilden?
Just questions on moving the neighborhood commercial. I'll just say, I don't have any concerns moving it, but if we approve it, I'd like it to be conditional on seeing where it comes in. Because we're talking about the neighborhood commercial will come on a property, whatever direction.
To the north.
To the north, and I'm fine with moving that, but I'm not comfortable of approving it and not having it locked in that we get one unit per one unit transferred over. And so if we were to move forward, that's a condition I'd want to be placed on it. And if we don't get it in the northern area foot for foot, I'd want it to revert back to neighborhood commercial. And I know that's probably your intent, but it just gives you some protection as well as us, that it's in the minutes what we agreed on and tied into the approval. Is it a similar concept of the meeting house? I can't remember. I was more focused on the neighborhood commercial. Are we?
Yeah, there was originally supposed to, I mean, it was the bubble diagram say, hey, if the LDS church needs a location, here is one. They don't. So they said, we got to remove it now, so what do we put in place of it? It would just be the similar single-family lots that you see there around it.
Well, that's not a different zone.
They're
So.
still within their, what was approved with the.
Oh, yeah, if you look, the range is up to 730 units, and right now they'd be at 664.
Okay, well, and
That's for Village Plan 1.
One, correct. This is all strictly village plan. Well, that's the only village plan we have right now.
okay. Well, and the meeting house is the same zone, so it doesn't really make sense to do anything there. But that's what I'd like to see on the neighborhood commercial.
Okay. Councilman Porter?
I'm in agreement with Councilman Wilden. I think that, we've held other developers accountable when they've tried to get rid of commercial space. It's at a premium in our city. We need to protect that. So I'm comfortable giving you the flexibility to move it where you want it, but I don't want it to disappear and turn into houses. Sorry.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion. Councilman Carn?
I move to approve the proposed amendments to Village Plan 1 of Jordan Promenade with the findings and conditions in the staff report.
Okay, would you be willing to add a condition that
Yeah, and I'll add a condition that the neighborhood commercial acreage stays the same in the next village plan, or to the north as that village plan comes in.
What's lost on this will go into the next
Yes.
village plan to the north.
Yeah.
Is that clear enough for you, Caleb? Okay, I second.
Can we clarify too about not doing anything with the fuel, private or public?
Oh, we'll strike, yeah, so on that motion, we'll strike the need for the private-public fuel station.
Okay.
Amended second.
Perfect. I have a first from Councilman Carn, a second from Councilman Porter. Any further discussion?
How far off are we on the other village plan? I'm just wondering, I'm supportive of this condition, but what we've done is I think we're putting it at the standpoint that we're going to need to see the other village plan sooner than later to verify it's in there if it's a condition.
I would take it as won't come to be approved without it, even if it's a year from now. The village plan 2 will have to have that square footage to get as an approval. So I'm assuming Stroud, you'll make notes on the project.
Okay, good point.
They come in 6 months or a year from now, we got in the minutes here, we'll put it as in our notes here that when that north village plan comes in, that square footage for commercial lost here at minimum, goes up to the next, the adjacent village
At a
plan.
minimum, I like that.
Will that trigger any rezoning requirements or anything like that?
No, no,
No, because they do all that as part of the or the village plan.
village
right?
plan, right. All the details are in the village plan.
Okay, I'm comfortable.
Mark?
I just wanted to see if the applicant had any questions relative to that motion.
No, we planned on that already. We've been working with SLR for PSA and has stipulations where we've got a certain amount of developable acreage that we're allowed to take, and they've got a certain amount of commercial acreage, and it's in our contract to keep to that, so that's what we'll do.
Okay.
Sorry, I had one more thing.
Okay.
Are you planning on cutting 2/3 of this? Are you gonna transfer 2/3 or 1/3 approximately and move it to another plan?
Yeah, so what's been allocated out of Village 1 is going into Village 2. We don't have an end user there or anything like that, but in our preliminary planning, we have increased the size of it to accommodate any sort of user that SLR is considering.
Okay, that answers my question, because if all we transferred was like an eighth of an acre or something like that, that clearly would never be usable other than for a vending machine, I guess, but.
Perfect. Okay, I have first and second. Councilman Carn?
Aye.
Porter?
Aye.
Wilden?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey, how close are you on that corner? Do you know?
As far as developing it and then getting
Yeah,
it.
having someone come in there.
Yeah, well, John.
Yeah, I know you probably can't, I mean,
I'm John Linton. I'm with Holiday Oil, and I hope we're very close.
oh, okay, great.
And I appreciate,
Drop the mic for him any minute.
I should also say, on the record, I appreciate Dave Stroud's help on the zoning on this to clarify that a convenience store will give us the zoning we need rather than a refueling station private. So I appreciate his work on that.
So something similar to what we see in Lehigh.
Yes, it will be a convenience store, fuel pumps, and car wash.
Great.
Very similar to the layout you see on 2100 North.
Yeah, that new one, great.
It will be nicer than the one we're going to build in Eagle Mountain. No, I'd strike that. I'm just kidding.
Looking forward to it.
You already got two, don't you?
We'll just
Okay.
tell them after it's done, ours is better.
Okay, thank you. Okay, business item 3, standard technical specifications and drawings, manual amendment.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm going to be bringing an amendment for many other changes to the standards and specs, or the specs and drawings. But for tonight, we've got just this one. It's kind of urgent. Our most recent revision of the Transportation Master Plan was done almost exactly a year ago, January or February. It was based on Mountain Land Association of Governments Trans Plan 40. The planning horizon was the year 2040. During the year of 2019, so not long after we did our Transportation Master Plan, well, let me back up. So our Transportation Master Plan was based on Trans Plan 40, which designated Saratoga Road from Pioneer Crossing down to 145, or what will be Pony Express. It designated that as a collector. And so that's what we reflected in our Transportation Master Plan. Just last year, later on in 2019, Mountain Land Association of Governments came out with Trans Plan 50. They moved the planning horizon to 2050. And in that document, they show that same segment of road as an arterial instead of a collector. Well, since then, so by that time, we had already entitled the North Shore development with their neighborhood plan, and we had already entitled the Pirelli subdivision. Both of them assuming that that would be a 77-foot right-of-way. Okay, so now this Transplant 50 comes along and wants 2 more lanes of traffic, and what we have tried to do with this amendment is to accommodate that Transplant 50, provide capacity for that additional volume with an alternative cross-section that isn't so wide that still conveys the traffic, but doesn't impact those adjacent properties so much that those properties that have already been entitled. And so that's really the driving force. Here, we've met with the applicant, D.R. Horton, and we've met with Pirelli Meadows. The changes to Pirelli would be simply reducing the park strip on their side. The impact on North Shore would be a sliver of right-of-way and then just a different frontage than what was expected. Both those parties are amenable to this idea, and we've taken this to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission forwarded a unanimous positive recommendation, and so I'm here to entertain questions from the council and see if you'd like to adopt this cross-section so that we can move forward with North Shore's engineering plans.
Councilman Porter?
Okay, I just have two. So my understanding is basically we're getting rid of the bike lane or widening the bike lane and turning it into a car lane, right? Is how you're gaining some of that drivable area.
Yeah.
And then the other one is, does this become part of the menu that other developers can say, I want to do this cross-section, or is this specific to Saratoga Road?
Notice that heading right there, Saratoga Road, north of Pony Express.
Okay.
So this section applies to only that segment.
Okay, good.
There are 2 points that I wanted to bring out on this, and specifically the sliver of land. We are currently working with UDOT and asking UDOT if they will exchange some land on the western edge of their property for that right-of-way to make it a net zero kind of an impact. The other thing is D.R. Horton has identified some increased costs, and they would be asking for us to grant them a credit for those costs as a transportation impact fee credit in the event that the land trade doesn't work out. Our hope is that UDOT will make the land trade work, and therefore we wouldn't necessarily have to give a credit. But we are going to be looking. Plan A and Plan B, and UDOT is aware of that, and they are working with us. It will just take a few months to get that potential transfer there, but I did want you to make you aware that if this does go forward, those would be either in the form of a credit, as we do with all developers if there's an impact, as a system improvement of some sort, and or the land exchange.
Okay. Any other questions? Councilman Carn?
Yeah, so my only question is, if we approve this tonight, will the work go forward on this immediately? Plan A or Plan B will happen either way?
Yes. Yeah, and in fact, one thing that we want to point out is due to the timeliness of this, we already worked with Pirelli to have them extend some storm drain boxes, and it was a very minimal cost in order to make that happen so that it could be done right now and not delay anything. So again, those are the potential impacts of making this decision. But again, we feel like it's a really good catch so that we can actually get this road width, the size that it needs to be at a point where it's not buying homes or having to go in and do costly reconstruction of infrastructure that's already been built.
The urgency being Pirelli Meadows is already under construction. And the urgency with North Shore is that we literally have their engineering plans on our desk. So.
Perfect. Councilman Porter?
I move that we approve the standard technical specifications and drawings manual amendment, ordinance 20-4 dated today.
Second.
We have a first from Councilman Porter, a second from Councilman Wilden. Any further discussion? Councilman Carn?
Aye.
Wilden?
Aye.
Porter?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. The professional services contract with Tanner Company for strategic plan update, resolution R 20-11.
Mayor, Council, as the staff report indicates, we received direction from you at the retreat to update the strategic plan. We worked with Tanner previously, and so they were able to give us a proposal. And based on their familiarity with the process and our community, they've quoted us at $25,950 is their estimate. And we worked well with Tanner previously, and so any questions you have, I'd be happy to answer.
Okay. If there's no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I was just gonna ask, what does this compare to when we did it, what was it, 6 years ago?
It was
Six-ish?
about, I believe, 40,000,
Okay.
so.
I'll move that we approve business item 4, resolution R20-11 dated today for the amount specified in the staff report.
Second.
I have a first from Councilman Wilden, second from Councilman Carn. Any further discussion?
Yeah, if this passes, does this give us the go forward with our recommendations, and we'll start doing that? Okay.
Okay. Porter.
Aye.
Carn.
Aye.
Wilden.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
I move that we approve the minutes February 4th, 2020 with all submitted changes.
Okay, I have a first from Councilman Porter.
Second.
I have a second from Councilman Carn. Any further discussion? Wilden.
Aye.
Carn.
Aye.
Porter.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. We have need for closed session. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved for the reasons listed.
Second.
Okay, I have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.